What's up, Cam?
Not a lot, Mitch. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's our Thanksgiving episode of the show. That's exciting.
It is
I'm,
Thanksgiving.
I'm really tired.
Too much turkey?
I don't know. It could make me a lot of fun or really dull. I'm not sure, but let's try and be fun. I need some beer. There we go. That'll make me fun. But anyway.
And you'll just fall asleep on us.
Some winter beer. All right. Well, anyway, today is our Thanksgiving day of the show, and this has been a rough year, man. I think for everybody. And I think looking back on this, what I wanted to do on the show today is really find, the silver lining to the gray cloud. What's going on this year that has really been that's really changed us. What has given us hope? What has given us happiness? The good things that have happened, because amidst a pandemic and wildfires and one of the most active hurricane seasons that our planet's gone through, and just it seems like every time you think that that one thing is starting to get better, something else comes in. And of course, just looking at some of the COVID numbers lately, that isn't improving anytime fast. It doesn't look like. So
it's getting worse.
It's getting a lot worse, and that's that sucks. But I wanted to start off the show, just ask the question: how has this year changed us? So, what do you think, Cam? What's happened this year that's really kind of changed, hopefully for the better, but created some change.
Oh, for the better? I was going to say, I've got a much longer list on the other side.
Well, I mean, share what you want to share, because we're going to talk about the good stuff when we get to our top 5 today.
Yeah. So let's see. How has this year changed me? My wife left. So that was a huge change that I did not see coming nor enjoy, which means I became a single dad during a pandemic of a 3-year-old. So, I mean, that's been the hard stuff, trying to explain to a 3-year-old why she has to stay at home with me while I work all day because she can't go to daycare and see her friends because people are sick, and why she can't see her cousin or can't see grandparents. And, I'm not the only one that had to go through that. Clearly, there are plenty of people have done, just as much, probably with more children, homeschooling and all that. So that's just my version of the story, right?
I think it bears saying that, neither one of our experiences are unique. So for us to say that that this year has really been terrible for us, I mean, it's been terrible for everybody. It has not been convenient.
Right. And I'll balance the bad with the good, right? Like no one I know has passed away from COVID. So I feel blessed in that regard. No one in my immediate family has gotten the virus. So I feel blessed in that regard. I we had a scare. My kid's daycare provider got it. And so me and my daughter and her mom all had to get tested. We're all negative. So we seriously, like, we were this close. So grateful that we have avoided it, and a lot of the really, really tragic stuff that can be associated with it. I know there's plenty of people that get it and are fine, but there's hundreds of thousands of people that got it and died. So just, I feel blessed in that regard that I have not had to endure any of the tragic side of it personally. What about you? How has this year changed you, Mitch?
There's one thing that I'm going to talk about when we talk about our top 5 that I'll go into in more depth, but just a lot of really good lessons learned this year. And again, I'll go into more depth into that later. But I think for me, I would like to say that it hasn't changed a lot, but it's been a lot of gradual changes over the year. One obvious change was that, working at a retailer that was considered essential in a receiving department that quite honestly should have slowed down months ago and has not, because of the amount of business that we've been doing, and being 44 and and not having the body of a 20-year-old anymore. It's been hard physically, going through the year. And my wife will tell you, there are mornings I get up and I'm just hobbling around. It's not easy. And being at work and having to deal with customers that, they're all feeling it too. So they're grumpy, they're crabby. I mean, there's really only two kinds of customers that we have at work right now. And one of them is the really thankful and really gracious customers, which I love, and then there's the customers that are just terrible. They're crabby, they're the kind of customers that you just want to walk away from, but because you're in retail, you're not allowed to do that. You have to deal with them. And and thankfully I'm not in a position where I'm dealing with there's one lady at work that deals with install issues, and she is like, the stuff that she's had to deal with is just incredible. People canceling carpet installs, and carpet installs, not our carpet installs right now are scheduling in January because they can't get, they have so many lined up and they can't get enough installers right now to get everything installed. So to have somebody sit down with you and say, hey, I want to get carpet installed. And then you're like, well, we might have an appointment available for you in late January right now. And they're just like, what? I can't get it before Christmas? What do you mean? And people flip out when it comes to home improvements. These are big. I mean, you can't, it's hard when you work in home improvement when you haven't worked in home improvement to understand the amount of just stress that people have doing home improvements. If you've done home improvements before, you might understand that. But there's so much stress involved in doing this stuff because there's so much on the line. If you don't get it right, you have to live with that because that's not something that you can just change. The color can be a shade off and drive you crazy for the rest of your life. So you want to get those details right. Even for the contractors, I've stood and talked to contractors before that have told me stories of people, and this was pre-COVID, of people. Like, there was one great story, and it's not, you can't tell it as funny as it should be told if you can't cuss. So I've never been able to really tell the joke or tell it as well as it could be told. But there was one story that one of the contractors told us that just was so funny. Some fiery redhead that he was helping, or that he was doing some bathroom remodel for. And she was already upset. The contractor, who's a regular contractor with us, calls a phone number that one of our guys in plumbing gave him for I think it was Delta faucet, and the number was wrong. There was two numbers flip flopped, and he ended up calling an adult. I don't know a tactful way to say this, but an adult line. I want to say he jokingly called it the Busting Beauties something or other line, but he accidentally called this number right in front of her and could not stifle laughing. And I guess she just flipped out on him, and so he's like, he put it on speakerphone and let her listen to what happened. She did not find it amusing. And so, yeah, he had to call back and get the right number. And he got to the store. That's and he's funny. Telling us a story. And he's like, can I borrow your phone real quick? I was like, yeah. He's like, so here's the story. He tells a story and then he calls the number and plays it for us out loud. And there wasn't anything, it was just a lady picked up and was like, hey, for this, dial this. And, so it wasn't anything weird, but we all just busted up laughing. It was hilarious. But anyway, that's not COVID related. But I think really the stress at work is one of the biggest changes that's happened this year. Just not having the time and attention for even at home for all the stuff that's going on. Another huge change for me was the amount that the church has depended on me this year as my official title now is AV director at the church. It's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting. Like my wife and I pray every day for direction, and we look for that very actively. What is it that you want us to do? And how do you want us to proceed with different things? And it's kind of interesting because I kind of got the idea to start kind of playing with the whole live stream thing here at home. And I got a little familiar with how to use like the OBS software and be able to patch things into that and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of getting the idea of how to live stream a show for myself. And then the church, I thought, well, you know what? Let me try something this Sunday. So just on my own YouTube account, I logged in and I installed everything that I needed to install and set up a live stream. And I live streamed the service. This was a week before we shut down here in Wisconsin. So there was no warning. I just like, well, I'm going to live stream this sermon and see how things go. And all of a sudden, within days after that, I'm being told, hey, we're going to have to go to only live streaming for a while. I'm like, well, that's funny because I live streamed last week and it, there was a couple of pitfalls or whatever, we had to overcome a couple of issues, but I was like, it's kind of awesome how God works that out. And so we started live streaming regularly that next week and it's been really cool. Now the next hurdle is we haven't done live video in the sanctuary. It's all been like the slides that we're running and stuff like that. And we've had to change a few things to make sure that is engaging on the live stream. But now they want to start moving into video, which is going to create some complexity. But I think we can manage it. So I'm probably looking tentatively at trying to get that going after the first of the year, just get through the holidays and stuff. But yeah, so that those are probably the biggest two things that have changed for me. My wife is, I don't know how much she's really been affected by it, outside of me like freaking out every once in a while. But so I think that's a good prelude into what we're going to talk about today. I like doing these 5 things, especially when we need to do a pre-recorded show because we don't have news to talk about. So something could happen between now and when this is released. By the way, if you've noticed that this is released early, I wanted to get it out before the holiday so people can enjoy it during the holiday. But we're going to talk about 5 things we're thankful for this year. So Cam, we'll start with you. What does your number 5? Actually, you know what? We're not going to number them. What's something that you're thankful for this year?
Yeah, more time with my daughter. We shut down in March, and she didn't go back to daycare, I don't think, until end of May, beginning of June. Roughly somewhere in there. And so for a while, her mom got furloughed, and so she was watching our daughter during the day. But then she went back to work after the furlough ended, and so Kennedy had to stay home with me during the day, and so I got to spend much more time with her. And then as a single parent, we're doing 50-50, so technically I may have less time, but it's like when I do have my time with her, I'm like 100% focused on spending that time with her. Whereas, when you're have 2 parents in the same, you can kind of multitask, get stuff done, so I try to do like cleaning the house, laundry, grocery shopping, all that sort of stuff. I try to do when I don't have her so that when I am with her, we can, play Barbies and horsies and cook dinner together and, spend more quality time together. So that's definitely a positive side to the whole, situation with the family. So I'm just grateful that I do get a lot more quality time with her now. And now that she's getting older, like she turns 4 in 9 days. So even the timing of all this happening is, she has gotten way more conversational and inquisitive, and we can have talks about stuff and then still be silly. And so it's really a good age for her right now for this sort of interaction. So it's been good.
Yeah, that can be a very fun age. I have a very good friend that's 4 years old, so I didn't not acts like they're 4 years old, but is actually 4 years old. So we babysitted for them last night, and it was fun because my I get there and my wife's like, she walks up and says to my wife, Miss Jamie, I'm excited to have you here, but Mr. Mitch is awesome. So
yeah, they can be pretty honest in a nice way.
Yeah, so my wife is just like, yeah, I guess I'm chopped liver. So and I was coming from work. She was already over there, so I was bringing supper. But
that's funny.
Yeah, it was good time. Well, I kind of themed these a little bit. There's one later on that's not themed very well, but I themed these a little bit because you and I had a lot of the same ideas. Definitely family. This year, one of the highlights of my year is the amount of time that I've been able to spend with my wife. Because normally we usually get a lot of time together, but it feels like this year we've gotten much more time together, and we've grown. Not that we didn't appreciate each other before, but this year has just brought us even closer, and it's been really amazing to go through that. This was really I always feel weird saying this, but this was really the final year where we were going to actively be trying to have children. We've been married for 19 years, so that's been a long time. And so we were looking at adoption next year, and Lord willing, something will happen. When you start looking into adoption, it is scary. There's a lot of money involved. We were looking into this, and even a cheap agency, and when I say cheap, I don't mean cheap, but inexpensive agency, you're plunking down nearly $20,000, and there's no there's no promise. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll try and find you somebody, and they don't find people. They don't find a child for everybody. So that $20,000 could be just thrown out the window. And so for me, I mean, that's a huge decision, and a lot of thought and stuff has been put into this over this last year. And what I'm really hoping is that God brings something to us as opposed to us having to go out and find something. And so I'm ready to be a dad. And I've been ready for a long time. And my wife has only ever wanted to be a mom and a wife. And so, for her to have waited, almost 20 years of marriage to get to that point, this is a pretty big deal for us. And I'm super thankful that we're even though so many of these things seem so such a downer, I'm so thankful that we are where we are to be able to do this. $20,000 is still a lot of money for us, and to say $20,000, it's going to be closer to 40 by time we adopt and bring the kid in, and so and I'm hoping that God does something else, because that is not the way that I really want to do it, because that's money aside. I mean, we'll get credits back from the government for a lot of that, and that'll cover a vast majority of that amount. That's one thing that people may not realize is, the credits that we'll get back will cover most of that. But it's still so much money and such a risk, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, family has become one of those things this year that just is, I lost my grandma about a year ago, this time. And so that was already on my mind, you know, coming into this year. And then families just seems like it's grown closer. And our church family too has just grown closer and appreciated our time together so much more.
Well, I'm excited for the possibilities, Mitch.
Yeah, me too. My wife said that that if you're ever able to come up here and hang out, that she'll take Kennedy and you and I can go around and do whatever we want. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, she's seen some of the pictures you've posted and really appreciates your little girl. So
yeah, I got a good one.
Yep. All right, so something a little lighter hearted. What's your next pick?
I was really trying to figure out, like, man, how do we segue from like some pretty serious like family stuff into, oh, I like my new iPad. Yeah. It seems so trivial and stupid in comparison to what
you know. It's looking about. It's looking back at the high points of the year. So you know,
yeah. So I put my iPad Pro on here because I'm one of the people that I think most people's entry into the Apple ecosystem has been the iPhone. I think that's generally the more common way people get in. But for me, it was the iPad 2, like 12 years ago or whatever it was, 10 years ago. I can't even remember. I had an Android phone, I had a PC laptop, and then the iPad 2 came out, and I was like, ooh, and I had just started my first gig as a youth pastor, and there was money left over at the budget from the previous guy that was going to go unused. And I was like, wait, so I can just spend that budget money on an iPad? And they're like, yeah. I was like, score. So I got the iPad 2, and that's what brought me in to Apple's ecosystem. And I used that iPad for years. And then I got the iPad Air 2, and I used that for years. Even with a broken screen, I was sitting on our back patio in Kansas City, and I had a pair of basketball shorts on, and I leaned down to get my beverage off of the cement patio, and I felt it slip off my legs, and it landed screen down on the cement, and it's just like with like the thud that you know it's not going to recover from.
I've been there.
So I reached down, I picked it up. It landed on the corner. And just spider web just across the whole screen. But I wasn't at a point where I could afford a replacement. So I just got a screen protector and just put it on there so that I wouldn't get glass, slivers. And I used it with a broken screen for almost 2 years. So this iPad Pro, it's the ones they just released in, March or whatever it was at that event. The 11-inch, and it's just fantastic. I love it. I take it with me pretty much everywhere I go, in a backpack. I can edit photos on it. I can play games. I can read. I love it. It's so convenient. The pencil is awesome. I'm just a really, really big fan, and I will use it.
It's really good at hitting your mic too.
I am really good at hitting my mic, so thank you for that. But yeah, it's I too will use this for many years to come.
Yeah. And I think we're privileged to have what we have, because it's sitting in front of me right now. I've got an iPhone, I've got an iPad, my MacBook, my iMac, I'm sure there's my Apple Watch on my wrist. I think we're really privileged to have the tools, and these are tools for what we do. They're toys too. Some of them are toys too, but they also play the role of tools, so that we can do what we do. So yeah, it's cool. I look forward to being able to update my iPad at some point, but there are more important things right now for me. So I've been excited about, and I kind of group these two things together because they have to do with purchases for them from this last year. And I toyed with putting my iMac on this list because I love this thing. It is such a nice computer. But I decided to go with my new car, my Jeep Renegade, because, man, I haven't I haven't enjoyed driving for quite a while until I bought this. And now I enjoy driving on a whole different level than I used to. This is the first time we have looked at, what do we want for features? What do we want for options on the vehicle? And I didn't get everything that I wished I could have, but we got all the important stuff. I left work the other night, and I went back. I was getting ready to leave. I got my stuff together, and I'm heading back to the punch clock to punch out. And I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and I went to the Uconnect app on my phone and started my car. First off, that's awesome. And then I went over to the punch clock and I punched out and went to my locker, put my stuff away, put on my coat, got ready to go, and just, took my time, 5-10 minutes or so before I actually got out to my vehicle. And I opened the door to the car and I felt the warm come out. I was like, oh, it's nice and warm inside. And so I get in, and of course I've got a trial of Sirius XM radio, and I love the jazz station on there just for kind of a default radio to have on. And so there's jazz playing. It's nice and warm inside. It was almost like my car was like, come on in. It's nice in here. And it just like welcomed me right into the car. And I joke, the only thing that was missing was the cup of coffee, freshly brewed, sitting in the cup holder waiting for me. So, but yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, and some nice smoke that comes out when you open the door.
Yeah, it would have been beautiful. But no, it's such a nice car. We bought it new, so it drives so smooth and so comfortable compared to vehicles that we've had in the past. And with our vacation, if you're listening to the day that this was released, I'm actually releasing this on the day that we leave for vacation. So we're driving if you're listening to this during the day. So, but I'm looking so forward to driving that down to Tennessee and enjoying a vacation down there. And yeah, I'm just hoping this COVID stuff doesn't ruin that for me. But yeah, it's gonna be good. And I really, really like this vehicle. So it has been, to use the term game changer seems a little bit much, but it really, really has really changed a lot of stuff for me. So I'm really appreciative of it. So yeah, and we can look at this. These are blessings. God has given us. I look at that car just about every day and just thank God for the provision that He gives, because this is something that I can't say that necessarily this is a need, but I need transportation. And He loves to give good things to His kids. So it was something that, I really, really appreciate. So, all right, man. What's your next pick for things you're thankful for this year?
Well, I was doing some mapping here to see potential routes from where you go to where Nashville is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized you're going to drive around my city that I live. And then also I realized I'm driving back to Michigan that day. So even if you were driving through my hometown, I wouldn't be able to wave to you on the way by.
Yep. Don't think that I didn't think about stopping off for a few minutes to say hi. But yeah, when you said you were going to be out of town too, I figured, well, I better just get a more direct route to Tennessee. But yeah, I won't be far from you.
Cool. All right. Next on my list is working remotely.
I would,
because God is the giver of all good things. Yes. So, and I'm not working remotely because of the pandemic. I'm working remotely because my job is a remote job. And one of the things that I appreciate about it is that it allows me to get a better job as far as career path potential, as well as experience and income than I could get where I live. So by having the opportunity to work remotely, I can live somewhere close to family, somewhere that I enjoy, that has a relatively low cost of living compared to places I would need to live in order to get this job if I was working in an office. So like downtown Chicago, or other large cities. Our company headquarters is in Atlanta and Dallas. So those are both more expensive places to live than where I live. And they're in really, really hot, sticky, gross places to live that I don't want to live for those very reasons. So the ability, so not having a commute, being able to use my refrigerator, my kitchen, my bathroom during the day is great. Being able to go straight from here to get my kid from daycare is a 5-minute drive because it's just right in town. I live across the alleyway from my church. Like there's lots of benefits to working remotely, in the sense that I don't have to put up with office politics, or that guy who like bites his nails in the cubicle next to me. I don't work in a cubicle. It's glorious.
Your cubicle is much larger.
Yes, my cubicle is my house, which it's not a big house, but it's bigger than a cubicle. That's for sure. It's like maybe 4 cubicles big. So I appreciate it. And, with the wonders of technology, I can see my coworkers over video. We chat, we laugh, we have a good time. We do really good work, but I don't have to worry about living in a big city. I would love to live in a big city just for the everything you can do. Like Chicago's awesome, but it's stupid expensive. It's so expensive. And right now it's not a good place to be because of the pandemic. So again, I'm glad I'm in a smaller town. Small compared to Chicago, right? Like there's like 85,000 people that live in this little area. So it's not tiny, but it's certainly not a metropolis. And I'm only an hour from downtown. So it's a good fit, and being able to work remotely is just another thing that I'm thankful for, because I just enjoy it. It's good for me.
Yeah, and I've been watching for decent remote jobs that I would like to do, because quite honestly, I would leave my job in a heartbeat if I could find something, really good and kind of in my area of expertise and all that kind of stuff that I know that I could be successful at. Because, for what I'm making right now at work, I'm not making bad money. I'm very happy with what I'm making. But to be able to do that from home would be a game changer for me. It would just be able to get up and come downstairs into my studio, and my commute is a stair, a story, one flight of stairs. It would just be awesome. So I have been kind of keeping my eyes open with the company that I work for to see if they're going to do some remote stuff now more than they were before. Because quite honestly, and I'll be open with you, they have a training department at the headquarters, and I've wanted for years to work with their training team, and they don't offer remote work, which means that I would have to move down to one of those hot, stuffy, like gross places, and live there in the city, where, like you were saying, would be expensive and unpleasant to work. It would probably be a long commute there and back, and just wouldn't be something I would want to do. From all the other, the job itself would be great. Everything else would be awful. So if they would offer that, I would, in a heartbeat, switch to that position and do that from home. But man, yeah. So, although I will tell you that my job has, for all the pitfalls this year, all the stresses, all the craziness, has been good too. My employers have given me a lot of leverage over my schedule. As long as I'm there for the stuff that I need to be there for, I'm able to come in a little earlier on the days that I don't have trucks to unload at night, and I have a lot of latitude. I have a lot of trust with the team that I work with as well. So it's, I've been there for 7 years, and I've worked closely with the store manager for a lot of those years, and so the trust factor is there, and I kind of feel like if something ever happened that my integrity was called into question, it wouldn't be called into question with them. That they trust me, and they've worked with me a lot over the years. So, to have that kind of respect built up with them, to know that I can pretty much request whatever I need, and they're willing to work with me, so I just asked them for a new pallet jack the other day, and there was like very little question of it. They were just like, "Oh yeah, just go ahead and order another one. You're good." So, to be able to just say, "Hey, I need this $200," it's like $250 for the pallet jack, to be able to just say, "Oh yeah, go ahead and order that. I'll approve it." It's like, "Oh, wow, cool." So, and another aspect of my work lately, and I'll dial this back a little bit to our beliefs and our faith as well, is that you have opportunities to talk to people and to breathe into them, and to help people. And I've oftentimes questioned, I'm just going to say it, and I hope that it doesn't sound real prideful or whatever, but I'm a pretty smart guy, and there's a lot of things that I could have done with my life that, I could have probably been an engineer. I could have probably gone into the medical field, which that's disgusting to me. So I probably would never do that. But there's a lot of things that I could have done with my life that I didn't do. And a lot of it had to do with where God wanted me. And so over this last year, I've seen a huge change in my personal attitude towards work. And there's been a war, in me, the war of the person that's, oh, I hate this, this sucks, versus the other part of me that says, well, God has put me here, and God has given me so many opportunities to talk to my coworkers about faith and about the things that I believe. And even though in a corporate structure, you got to be really careful, the opportunities that I've had, I've been able to talk about, things, and present some things to some of these guys, some of these kids that I work with, stuff like that. So that's been really cool. So I just had a experience the other night, where I was able to talk to a guy that actually has listened to our podcast, and may listen to this podcast, that I was able to talk to a little bit about his atheism, and turn him on to a podcast that I thought that he might like. So, other than ours, that sounded really self-serving, but been really blessed. So, been really blessed with just having a job too, because not to sound like that guy either, but I've got guys in my inner circle, sort of, that have lost their jobs this year, or they've been on, um they've been laid off for a good portion of the year. So, to have a job that I can do, I got one guy that goes to our church, that does like big audio video installs and stuff like that, and they're not doing hardly any of that this year because of COVID. And so he's been out of work most of the year. And so that, you know, to be able to have a job to go to every day is as much as I would love to, you know, be able to work out of my studio every day and do stuff, when the money's not coming in, and the stress is that I've got to make money, that the fact that I have that reliability, and work has been awesome this year. Tomorrow is going to be the last day that they're going to be offering this bonus that they offered to start with COVID, where if you work, over 35 hours a week, you get $100 bonus every week for doing that. So,
oh wow,
that's been cool. And then starting after that, they're doing a permanent raise for everybody. So, just to help everybody out. And so that's been just awesome. They did double time overtime for a long time, at the beginning of all of this.
Wow.
They gave us a bunch of extra personal time. I had 80 hours of personal time that was loaded in. a few weeks after the pandemic stuff hit. So I still have a lot of that. So I've been using that here and there, but we can use that for anything. It doesn't have to be used for like if I get sick and can't come into work. I can use that for anything. It's just personal time. But I ended up with 80 hours. Some of the at-risk people ended up with over 200 hours of emergency personal time. So, and that's on top of the personal time that we earn. So at one point I had like 120 some hours of vacation and personal time and stuff like that I could use. Actually, it was like over 200 if I think of vacation time in there. But yeah, it's just been a really awesome year, and our company's taken great care of us. So, and I wish I could say what company it is because but I don't want to do that on the show just because sometimes I have gripes and I can get myself in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you hit me up on Twitter and you really want to know, I'll tell you on Twitter. So in a DM, of course. But cool. Yeah, jobs are good. Then I think I go stir crazy at home if I couldn't leave.
For sure. Another thing that I'm thankful for this year is my bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is fun to play and I enjoys it quite a bit. And it's pretty to look at. So it's something that there's like, I always view like bass players as like there's people that can play the bass, and then there's bass players that are like a couple levels up. Because there's nothing wrong with just rocking the root notes and being steady. But once you start to explore what you can do on the bass to support the song in different ways and to create some more dynamics within songs, it's just such a fun world. And I'm coming from 6 how old am I? 34. Oh my gosh, 18 years of playing guitar. Holy crap, I'm 34. That just hit me. But 18 years of playing guitar where
we don't talk about age on this podcast.
Mainly electric guitar, right? And trying to like shred solos and and bass is a completely different mindset. You can still do incredible things, on the bass, but it's much more, especially like the music I play, it's much more about working with the drummer and providing a solid platform and a steadiness and supporting the other musicians. And it's just really fun to learn more about that and to get better at it and to try new things. And I just enjoy it. Plus, when I play with an incredible drummer. So it's just really, really, really fun to play with him because he's just like ridiculously good, but not in like a showy way, which I always appreciate with drummers. Is like they know they can do stuff, but they don't have to. He serves the songs incredibly well, so it's fun to play with him and have that sort of pairing.
I enjoy playing bass as well because it's such a textured instrument. Like you can do so much with it, and I think I always look at it as you're there to support the melody. You're there to support all the good stuff that's going on, and the bass doesn't get the solos all that often. Not that they never do, but you're usually there to make everyone else sound good. And quite honestly, that has been my role all my life. As an AV director at the church, I'm there to make everybody else look good. As a lot of the roles that I've had in my jobs over the years, I'm there to make other people look good. So. And I'm fine with that. I feel good about that. So in my podcast life, I'm there to make my co-hosts look good. So I think you look pretty good.
Aw, thanks. I need all the help I can get, Mitch.
All right. Well, I mentioned a lot of the lessons that I've learned this year, and probably, I mean, my next thing is really just all those lessons that I've learned this year. God has really taught me to let go of a lot of my fleshly stuff. The sermon series that my pastor's been doing this year has been amazing. For me, just he calls it living the Christ life. And lately he's been talking a lot about the concept of disconnecting this idea that somehow we live in the flesh all the time. The idea is separating the flesh from the spirit and making the choice to live in the spirit. And it's so hard to explain without talking about it for like 5 hours, because there's so much to it. And it's a concept that's so hard to grasp that we have an active flesh life that wants to pull us away from God, and we have the spirit life that wants us to be better than that. And so, every day at work, I'm faced with the choices. Am I going to live in the flesh today, or am I going to live in the spirit? Am I going to be angry because that guy just left the pallet in the middle of receiving and had no care for the fact that now I got to clean it up? Or am I going to say, you know what? There's worse things in life. I'm sure they just weren't thinking about it, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'll go ahead and clean it up. Am I going to handle it the right way, or am I going to handle it in the flesh? And sometimes some stuff needs to be said, in situations like that, but making sure that it's always done graciously and with mercy. So that's been a really cool lesson. I think just listening to God's direction has been a really big thing for me this last year. The amount of prayer that's gone into some of these major decisions that we've made this year has been amazing. I don't think I've ever felt, I've never spent what I've spent on my iMac this year, or spent what I spent on my car this year. I've never done stuff like that before, because we always thought of it as, well, we just can't afford to do that. That's just not okay. Mm-hmm. And what we did a lot more of this year was, well, what does God think? What is the direction that he's giving us right now? And we have submitted ourselves to that direction to an extent that all of a sudden he's like, hey, you know what? You're going to need this computer for the stuff that you're doing, and your current computer is not going to suffice. And then the church comes to me and says, hey, we want to put you on staff and pay you for all the work that you're doing for the church. Suddenly I've got money I can cover this computer with now. And God gives me the release to say, okay, man, go ahead and take care of that, because you need this, and I'm giving you this money to take care of this. I would have never bought the computer for the price that I paid for this. And yet this thing kills it for me. I mean, I'm doing so much stuff with this that I could have never done with anything else. And so it just, being able to learn those lessons over the course of the year. And I think it's one of those things too, where God just said, it's time for you to start learning this stuff. And so it's been, and the pandemic probably played into that a little bit, because I've had a little bit more time to consider these things, and look at like what is possible. I have a really interesting idea for something I would like to do with the church in the long term. I can start laying the groundwork for that right now. And so I'm super excited for all the things that I've seen, I've heard, the lessons that have come to me this year, the stuff that I've learned, some of the stuff that I'm still working on, still learning. It's just been a blessing. So I don't know if you saw what I put in the document and was like, hey, you know what? That's awesome. I'm going to put that in there. Cause I'm sure it wasn't like, I'm just going to piggyback on what Mitch is going to say, but I think that, the temptation was to make sure that we included, God is awesome, and we're totally thankful for the faith that we have. But I like this angle, and I'm going to let you go ahead and start, and I will conclude this. Go ahead, man.
So, yeah, like just the concept of grace, right? I think for me, it has a lot to do with um, learning to forgive my wife for leaving, for making that choice. And a lot of it has to do with letting go of trying to understand, because I don't think I'm ever going to understand. Because the information that I've been given about her reasons are lacking any they're emotional reasons and not logical ones. And I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. I'm trying to, but I was very, very angry for a long time. Um, and so part of my healing process through that has been, looking at my relationship with God, how I act towards Him, the sin in my life, and then what God was willing to do for me while I was still His enemy, in sending Jesus to the cross, in putting my sin on Jesus so that when He died, my sin was taken care of. And so, really, and then you extrapolate that beyond yourself, right? To the people immediately around me, to every single human being that has ever lived, right? The entire weight of sin ever, and that God was willing to forgive it at His own expense, so that we could be together with Him. Is, He had every right to hold on to His anger. He had every right to punish, but He chose grace and forgiveness and mercy instead. And it's something that I am trying to embrace. I want my reaction to be grace and not anger. I want my reaction to be grace and not holding a grudge. I want my natural reaction to be gracious. And that has not always been even remotely close to the case. My family does anger very, very, very well, which is not a good thing to do well. And that's, I was raised in an environment where shouting matches occurred regularly. Doors were slammed, lots of nasty things were said. And so for me, it really is, I read about it, I've studied it, I have, academics to back up a lot of, my knowledge of the Bible, but being in the position that I am in, going through what I have gone through in this last year, it's like a prime example of how choosing grace is always the best thing to do. And I didn't choose it for a while. And I still struggle to, but it is something that is so much more front of mind for me, that I want to go there. And there's been times where I haven't acted gracious towards my ex-wife, and I have then had to go back and apologize and say, here's what I did wrong. I'm sorry I did it this way. Here's what I wanted to do, and to do that. So it's hitting me in a new way, of what grace really is and how much it really does cost. And yeah. So if any of that made sense, yeah, hopefully it did. But
absolutely.
It's just, yeah, it's just such a difficult thing to do well, but it's something that I really want to. And so that's where I'm at with that.
And if it was easy, everybody'd do it. I completely agree. My take on this was a little bit different in the sense that I'm reminded every so often that he didn't have to do any of this.
Mhm.
When Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, he could have just wiped it out and started over.
Rage quit and hit the reset button.
Yep. Um, every day that I'm alive is a gift that he's given me. And I don't always treat it that way. And I need to get better at that, and I think we all could learn to get better at that. But just all the with all the stuff that's happened over this last year, and just thinking about all the ways we could deal with it, to look at it and say, you know what, I never deserved this in the first place.
Yeah.
Just the truth of the matter. I don't deserve to be alive. I And it drives me so crazy. My wife will mention this every once in a while, when we're watching TV and a commercial comes on and it says, well, you deserve this. You don't deserve crap. You deserve death. That's the only thing we deserve. But the fact that God every day makes it possible for us to be here, that he doesn't snuff it out, is such a testament to the love that he has for us. And it's easy to look at the sufferings and the struggles that we see, in the world, and wonder, where are you? What are you doing? But I just I have to believe that there's a better, that this is good, because God says it's good. Um, I'm not sure how to quite explain what I'm thinking here, but the grace that he gives me, that I can sit down and I can read his word every day, that I can talk to him, that he cares what I think or what I want, or the fact that he wants me to be honorable to him. He wants me to be honorable to others. He wants me to live for him. Is just bananas. Like, why me? You know, you know, I mean, I'm not going Calvinist and saying that he predestined us to be saved, because I think that that's not what that verse means. But to say, hey, I loved you enough to give you the ability to choose me, really means. I mean, to say it means the world to me is not enough. It's amazing that his grace and his mercy was enough that we can be his children and follow him, because he didn't need to offer any of that. He could have just as easily said, okay, well, you guys go ahead and live on and do your own thing, and I'm going to go over here and create a better planet that will follow me, and you guys just screw this one up. Which in a lot of cases is kind of how it's happened, but he's still here, and he's still working with us and still wanting us to be his. We made a bad choice as a humankind, and now we're, um man, my hermeneutics are probably terrible right now, um but he made it possible for us to choose him and to love him and to be his child or children. So I think that grace is truly what I'm thankful for.
Yep.
I wanted to add one more thing. One of the highlights of the last year for me has just been being able to do this podcast. To have a place to talk about a lot of the things that I'm interested in talking about, to have somebody on the podcast that loves the things that I'm into, that because it's sometimes hard to find good like geeky friends that want to talk about this stuff. So I can tell you there's been plenty of people I've sat and talked with at work that are just not into this at all. But my wife will tell you that she gets a little tired of hearing about some of this stuff.
You're welcome, Jamie.
But I think that that this podcast has been a really cool thing, and having the opportunity to do this podcast with you has been incredible. And I think you're a good guy. I don't think you've deserved a lot of the stuff that you've had to go through this year. And I really appreciate the time that you and I spend together. So there it is, my touchy feely moment.
One,
for
thank
today.
you for the no, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it, and I too. Yeah, this has been fun. Because we didn't know each other really at all, outside of just being part of a Slack community where we met. So this could have gone a number of ways, and I think it's gone really well so far. So yeah, I have enjoyed the show thus far, and shall continue to.
And the story behind this really was that I didn't know you from anybody really. And one day you posted something on Twitter about a blog post that you had just written about something. And I'm like, he's a Christian? Because we, in the Slack channel, we don't talk about that kind of stuff. It's all about wrestling, So for me, I looked, I was like, and I've been looking for somebody to do a podcast with, and I was really trying to get my pastor involved in a podcast where we could talk theology and stuff like that, and he just doesn't have time for it, So yeah, I'm like, Cam, maybe I should talk to Cam and see if he wants to do something. And so that's where really this podcast was born out of, is just we both enjoy doing I saw that you did podcasts too on your website, and I thought, oh, he's a podcast guy. I'm a podcast guy. Maybe we should get together and do a podcast. And I think that what we've done so far has been really cool. I think that there's certainly a lot of areas for growth for us, but I think we've gotten a good start. 13 episodes in, that I'm happy with it. So it's been fun.
For sure. The future is bright.
The future is bright. So did we want to pick something to delight ourselves with this week? Because I think we talked a lot about things that we're excited about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we can just end with the grace thing. That's that can delight us this week and many weeks. That's my thought.
I'm delighted with you.
I was not expecting that. Touche.
I'm delighted with the fact that there hasn't been any Jar Jar references in this episode yet.
Well, there was last episode. I gotta pick and I gotta pick and choose my my misas and all that.
Yeah. Oh, cool, man. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise. Enjoy your time down in Nashville.
I will. It'll be a good time. Sweet. All right. Now we got to do the business part of this.
Yes.
If you are interested in checking out more about us and what we do, and listen to the back catalog of the show, you can check us out on innerdialogue.show. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much any podcast player that you use. Just search for Inner Dialogue. And I am Mitch Craig on Twitter. If you've got questions, comments, anything that you'd like to send our way, you can mention me or DM me. And Cam, you're on Twitter as well, right?
I do have a Twitter account. It is my name, Cam Brennan.
Yeah, we're both geeks. We got in early enough that we were able to get our names, so didn't have to be like Mitch Craig 35982. Or anything like that. I did for a while have one Mitchie the Kid, because there's a lady that I used to
work with. Hey, yo, it's me, Mitchie the Kid. What's good? How you doing? Mitchie the Kid. Oh, man, that has to be a recurring character now.
Probably. And I have another Twitter account that I'm not going to say on the show here, but it was pretty funny. I'll tell you off air. But it's my naughty one that I used years ago. So I don't use it anymore, but it's still out there somewhere. All right, man. Well, let's sign off. It was certainly an enjoyable to do this episode with you. I hope Thanksgiving goes well for you, and we will talk about Christmas in a couple weeks too. I have a plan for that, but we're gonna have to do something kind of novel because we are who we are. So, all right, Cam, been fun.
Indeed. Peace.
Peace.